As you can see, there's a heavy snowfall now. Everything's covered in snow. And everything has been covered in snow for a while. Remember, it's the beginning of March. This is over 9,000 feet in elevation. So everything was soaked previously, and that's why I got so frustrated trying to start this fire. Kept going, and then it would just fizzle out, and I got quite frustrated. So I had to stop, take a deep breath, and realize that I need to spend more time gathering perfectly dry wood. So where am I going to find dry wood in all of this? Let me take you along for the ride. I usually try and find branches that are underneath pine trees. So these have all been cleared out because there have been a lot of campers around here. So I'll have to look further and deeper into the woods. But I did come across another source of dry wood. Because here are some nice pine needles, but they're not dry. They're dead pine needles, but they're not dry. And they're not going to do you any good. You want dry, dry, dry. As dry as possible. One method could be finding some standing dead wood, cutting it down, because I do have a saw and a hatchet, and chopping it up to get to the center of the wood. And that's usually a lot drier. And then you can slice that up really nice and thin so there's a lot of air that gets to it. But over here, well, see, these are the branches I'm talking about, if you can see that. But like I said, there's a lot of campers around here. So where we're gonna go is right over here. You can see there's still snow getting through, but check this out. Let me see if I can make this a little brighter for you. Check this out. So there are larger pine trees above this one, and so the pine needles fall down. And they catch right on the branches there. So these are dry pine needles. Nice and long. There's some down there. I'm not interested in those. Those have been sitting on the ground. They would probably work, but these ones are going to be a lot better. But I'll also want some thicker dry wood. So that's where I'm going to go around. I'm going to try and find stuff like this. Another thing you'll be looking for on these dead dry branches underneath pine trees is if it gives a nice clean snap when you break it. If it bends at all, it's too wet. You don't want it. You want dry, you want small. And get a whole lot of the dry and really small, and that'll give you your base heat and you can build from there. But it is the most critical part of building a fire. I didn't bring a stove. I thought I'd be totally fine. Should have gathered more tinder before the snow started falling. I've got a pile of dry pine needles. And I've got a pile of slightly larger sticks. Look out. I've got a pile of dry pine needles and a pile of slightly larger sticks here. So, I mean, I'm not the best fire guy out there, but trust me, even those with a lot of experience can sometimes have a hard time starting a fire. So it's important to know what you can fall back on when it doesn't work, when you really need it. I can go without a fire tonight. It's just going to be that much more miserable and inconvenient. So I'd really like to get one going. Let's see if I can do it. I'm going to get everything ready. I do not recommend Zippos, by the way. It's like they run out of fuel every few days. They don't last very long. Okay. And maybe it's this fire pit, like is just bad with getting oxygen to it, I'm not sure. But I am definitely struggling with this fire tonight. So I'm not going to lay it straight on yet, because it's still got to have oxygen underneath. I don't want to starve out the flames underneath. So I'm just going to preheat this, being careful of my hands. At this point, I don't mind getting burned a little bit. See, now it's really taken off with the heat. See how it just quickly smothered that flame? I probably went too quick there. Oh man. This is going to be close because I haven't established that base heat yet. And what you're watching right now is the struggle for survival of the fire. This is very delicate right now. So I'm going to try and preheat some other wood without starving the oxygen from these little branches. It looks like the snow is starting up again too. So that's going to complicate things. So I still do have a flame there, but you can tell it is barely hanging on, and I'm trying not to breathe directly on the fire because it needs just the slightest puff of wind is going to blow it out. But the longer it goes, the more it's going to get that base heat. And have a ball of coals that if it gets going long enough, I can blow it back to life. And this may seem like it's starting to go pretty well now, but it is, trust me, could go out any second. It's a very delicate balance right now. I'm going to move these pine needles a little bit more forward so they don't fall down. Well, looks like I got some of my other sticks falling down. So I already preheated this stick, now it's going. I'm going to try and find another stick to get preheated. And you don't want to go too ambitious yet. Okay, this is good. The longer it goes, the more I can get that base heat. So I did find some other slightly larger dry wood, but it's still not bone dry. So I got to be very careful to slowly heat it up. If I can start getting some of these larger branches heated up, then it's going to get that coal, that base heat, in really good shape. And once you've got a good coal in the center, again, if the flame blows out, you can blow it back to life. And if that happens, I can show you. But for right now, it is barely hanging on. In fact, I may want to blow that back up again. Okay, see how it suddenly started smoking a lot? That means the flame went out. And if it's smoking that much, it means you do have a pretty good coal going. So let's see if I can blow it back to life and get some of these other twigs on fire. Start out slow and then build. I'm going to let that burn some more just to get more of a coal. And then see it's going clear, and then suddenly it'll start smoking if that flame goes out. It's getting close. Okay, there's still a very small flame, but it's barely hanging on. I'm going to blow it. Yeah, boy, man, this is just really tricky out here. Everything is so wet. But the good thing about my situation now is it's been going for so long, it just keeps building that coal bigger and bigger at the center of the fire. And so it becomes easier and easier to keep the fire going. So it really is extremely critical that you take time to gather really dry, very small stuff when you're starting your fire. And don't starve it of oxygen as you're adding things on. Don't get in a rush. Okay, this is encouraging because now some of my larger sticks are taking. Oh, running out of oxygen. Oh man, this is just really tricky right now. I probably should have gathered more pine needles. You can see why in most shows they just skip the fire starting part. Like, it can take a long time and it can kind of ebb and flow. You can get the fire going and then it can die out, get it going, die out. If I can get this piece going, notice I'm not directly setting it right on. I'm trying to keep some oxygen on that lower branch before I lower it down. Ideally, if I had 10 hands, I would hold a bunch of sticks all straight up on top of each other. Because as the ones below start burning, they preheat everything above it. And it just makes it easier to keep the fire going. Okay, still a very delicate balance here. Another thing that is making it more difficult is the cold. The cold does affect the fire. It's a little bit slower to burn, at least when it's this small. But most of what I'm experiencing right now, most of this difficulty and frustration, it's completely moisture. In any other situation, this would be extremely easy to light up. You'd get it going no problem. But there's a whole lot of moisture in this wood. Just going to slowly build up that coal at the center and try not to starve it of oxygen. See how it's getting easier to blow it back to life? And it'll just get easier and easier. I guess that's kind of obvious though. I'm talking to you like you don't know a single thing about fire. Again, I'm not an expert, but I feel like I have some experience that I'm just trying to help you, you know? Maybe you learned one or two things here, maybe not. See, now I'm confident that this fire is going to continue going. Even if there was a huge breeze that came and blew all this out, it's got such a good central coal base heat that I can easily blow it back to life. And now that the fire's starting to go pretty well now, it's starting to preheat all of this super damp wood. So we're rocking and rolling now. I'm even going to test a more damp branch there, and that's all I really have. This one's slightly drier, so I'm going to try that. We're going now. Yes! Haha! Yes! We're going to have a fire tonight. I am definitely excited about that. Fire makes life much easier. Alright, well, I hope you learned a thing or two. Again, I'm not an expert, but I feel like there are some things that I've learned over the years that are helpful in starting fires that I wanted to share with you. So hopefully you learned something. Till next time, this is Derek reminding you, you're working too hard. See you next time.